Well, happy Friday here. We got plenty of college basketball coming up this weekend. Little college football championship week, mix in with a week 13 of the NFL, an NBA slate, NHL. Damn, we got a whole lot going on this weekend, but it starts here tonight with a couple of big matchups in some of these cross divisional conference college basketball games. I love this. We got Houston Xavier going tonight, Connecticut, Kansas. We're going to talk about those games. We got Purdue taking on Northwestern, a big Big Ten matchup. So plenty to dive into here today with three of the best on the college basketball tip-off shows. We welcome in Jeff Michaels in the house, Bryan Leonard ready to roll, as is R1L Steve Merrill. And kudos to those of you joining us live here on the broadcast. You know the routine. Smash that like button. If you're new, become part of the family. Hit that subscribe button as we get ready to dive into some of these games here tonight. And we'll start with Jeff Michaels because, well, I'm being told that's where we're going to start. So, Jeff, let's go with the Johnnies, if we can, taking on West Virginia in a big battle here. Of course, Pitino and the Johnnies seem to be figuring some things out. No more Coach Huggins, unfortunately, at West Virginia. No more drinking, obviously. But where are you going to go with this one here now? Because side total, who are you looking at in this one?
Yeah, I'm looking at the side here, and I'm looking at a lot of potential, I think, for this West Virginia team this year. Obviously, they have some things to fix, but you look at the breakdown, I mean, they have the size, they have the quality defense, and they've been one of the better passing teams in the league so far. They do have a couple issues with their depth, and they need a little more experience, I think, and their offense could improve, but you look at this game, and I think West Virginia has a solid matchup here tonight against St. John's. Their 3-point defense really has been kind of their one concern on the defensive side of the ball. And St. John's has been a quality 3-point shooting team, but they've actually taken under 35% of their shots from the field from beyond the arc. So they're not utilizing it as much as you may expect from a team that has the percentage that they're shooting it at. And you look on the flip side, West Virginia hasn't shot it quite as efficiently from beyond the arc, but they've taken a noticeably higher percentage of their shots from 3-point range. And St. John's offense has been noticeably better than their defense. But outside of that, you look at some of the advantages that I really do think West Virginia has here, especially when you factor in the fact that they're getting a handful of points here in this one. Last time I looked, I believe we were sitting at 5. But West Virginia, I mean, is the better team, the better rebounding team on both sides of the ball, thanks to, in a big part, to Jesse Edwards. But when you look at games, we've mentioned it on the show before, but free throw percentage, you think about, 1 point as opposed to 3 points may not make quite as much of a difference, but in all actuality, it really does, especially when you get to late in the games. And St. John's has really struggled there. Not to mention, throughout the entirety of the game, West Virginia is the second best fouling team in the nation. I mean, when you look at free throw attempts per field goal attempt, they're not allowing a high percentage of free throw opportunities. And then you got a team like St. John's that can't get to the line, and when they do, they're shooting under 70%. So, they really haven't been able to utilize some of those free points from the charity stripe there. And I think that that's going to be a huge factor when you look at them as a favorite, looking for them to cover a spread. I think West Virginia can keep this game close with a big part on the rebounding side. But keeping it close, just makes it that much better when you get to the end of the game. You get a team that's not fouling, not giving those opportunities. And then you get a team like St. John's that when they get to the line, they can't capitalize on those opportunities. So, I think that there's some potential here to keep an eye on West Virginia throughout the entirety of the season. But in this situation, getting 5 points here at home against St. John's, I'm going with the Mountaineers tonight.
Taking the Mountaineers here at little home dog action coming up on the hardwood tonight. One of, I believe, just about 20 games or so on the slate. Not the biggest of cards, but some big names certainly seem to be popping up here. The Johnnies being one of them. And as we welcome in Bryan Leonard, another I don't know, maybe a school or two we might have heard of do they even have basketball pro? Oh, yeah, that's right. UConn taking on Kansas here tonight in a game I know a lot of people are looking forward to checking out, especially if the college football conference games on tonight suck. I'm going to imagine UConn and Kansas is probably not going to suck here, Bryan Leonard. What do you think we're going to get in this one?
Yeah, you mentioned the programs. Yeah, if you were looking for football, these are probably two teams that you don't want to watch tonight. But Kansas has had a pretty good team for a couple of years now. But yeah, let's go back to basketball. It's a huge battle in the Big East, Big 12 Challenge. Connecticut enters at 7-0 with every win coming by double digits. The toughest team they played though was Texas, and they won that game 81-71. The offense so far has been very good, but against lesser competition. In fact, this is the Huskies' first true road game of the season. It's rare we get this far along and teams haven't played on the road yet. I think we can take advantage of that. As good as this team is, playing at a historic building against a perennial national championship contender is not the enviable position they want to be in. But still, this is a team that's very good, and talent may overtake that. The game should have special motivation for the hosts, as the Huskies won the the Big Dance last year, and Kansas enters play at 6-1 with the lone loss coming to a very good Marquette team. I think the Jayhawks have been a better tested squad than the Huskies. The games against Kentucky, Tennessee, and the previous mentioned Golden Eagles. This line opened at Kansas -1.5, is now sitting at 3. I can see why the line moved originally to get a Kansas team playing at home in basically a pick 'em situation. They win the game and they cover the spread. But now that the line is up to 3, I think it's gone a little bit too far for me to get involved here. Connecticut's team does have a ton of talent, and this game should come down to the wire. And where every point counts in sports betting, you need to know when you have value or not. Unfortunately, 1.5 was good value on Kansas. 3, not so much. So I'll be setting this one out, and hopefully we can learn something in this game that we can use for the future in college basketball.
Yeah, it's a great litmus test for both those teams here tonight, Bryan, without a doubt. And it's going to be an awful lot of fun watching them go toe to toe, especially UConn on the road here. Not exactly Fog Allen, an easy place to play at. So this will give us a good idea of where these two teams are. I think I could say the same thing about your game here, Merrill, when Purdue hitting the road against Northwestern. Now, if we turn the clock back a little bit, that didn't exactly work out all that well for them. What was it? January or February, I think, when Purdue headed to Northwestern. Didn't work out all that well. We're seeing 5.5s now. Is it change? Do we get a little revenge from Purdue here tonight?
Yeah, interesting matchup to talk about. And first of all, I got to give a shout out to one of my friends. Tyler Cobb tells me every year just play Purdue first half, set it and forget it, and then just watch them blow
Ooh.
the cover in the second half. So I thought of that. Talk about this game tonight. Purdue has been an excellent first half play by the last couple of seasons, and they've gone on not to cover many of those games. But this is a more competitive game here. And another reason I wanted to talk about this is the big game breakdowns. We've seen some fairly heavy, sharp money, in my opinion, come in on the underdog in this game, Northwestern. If I look at, I don't do a lot with public consensus this time of the day, year with college hoops. Obviously, the NCAA tournament becomes a very public time of year. But we've seen this line drop from as high as about 8 down to 5.5, 5. So we have seen what I think is some sharp money coming on Purdue. Is I think the public is still probably leaning towards the favorite here in this one. So the question becomes: is there value with Northwestern at just +5, getting closer to that straight up win situation? As you mentioned last year at home, they got the win as a 5-point dog, exactly the same spread, 64-58. Stayed under the total of 131 last year. Total tonight is 135. That also seen a substantial money move down from 139. So it makes sense that the money's coming on Northwestern and the under in this game. Something else I want to point out about Purdue, Northwestern, each of the last 2 seasons, one of the 10 slowest teams in the country. That's not a surprise. But Purdue's tempo last year was 324th out of 363. This year, they're in the top 100 right now in tempo. So they have been playing a lot faster this year. Obviously, some of that has to do with the opponents they've played. They just played Gonzaga, Xavier a couple times this year. Tennessee, a little slower Tennessee team, but keep in mind they just put up 190 some total points. I had a free overplay, by the way, in that Tennessee UNC game. Did a video on that also on Wednesday, so be sure to check out those solo videos. And then Marquette, Texas Southern. So this will be a contrast in styles for Purdue. Northwestern will slow this one down, but I think Purdue might be comfortable in that mindset, in that style of play. So once again, if you're looking at Purdue, I'd recommend them first half in this game. Shorten that price. They've been a very good fast starter for a couple seasons now. First half line, by the way, is about -3, 2.5 to -3. If you like Northwestern, though, I think the +5 would be the way to go the full game instead, as if they are able to ugly it up, keep it under that total, they can maybe stay within the 5 and pull the upset like they did last year. So once again, Purdue first half if you like them, Northwestern full game if you're looking that way.
Ken Palm's got it as a 8-point Purdue win here, but the market thinks otherwise. So pretty interesting matchup there as well. In fact, I mean, it's not a huge slate, but there are certainly some intriguing games and great litmus tests here for a lot of teams tonight. We've got 3 best bets coming up from the guys on tonight's card. But a quick reminder, if you're new to us here at WagerTalk TV, go ahead, smash that subscribe button, become part of the WagerTalk family. You just heard Steve talk about it. If it's head-to-head matchups you want, some best bets, some previews of games coming up all throughout the week. Nobody has more of it than we do. Check it out here, guys. Check out those videos available to you about all the big games coming up over the next 48 to 72 hours across all the sports. So great stuff there at WagerTalk TV on YouTube. All right, let's do this now. Best bet here time. And Jeff, will come back to you to talk about another game I know a lot of folks are interested in seeing. And this one has to do with Xavier taking on Houston, the Cougars here. Much better than their football team, who is apparently looking for a coach, and they're about 2 years late on that. But that's a totally different story. Let us talk about whether or not Mr. Miller here in Xavier can do enough to keep pace or maybe go over the total. Where are you looking at this one?
Yeah, you threw it out there. I think the key word here really is pace, keeping pace. And I'm going with the total here for a big part because of that pace, actually. I mean, you look at these two teams, both have been, dominant defensive teams, Houston more so than Xavier at this point. But you look at that pace, I mean, Houston loves to slow that ball down. They're in the bottom 80 in tempo. And you take on a Xavier team that is the fastest team that they've actually played this season. But I do think that Houston has the ability to slow this game down with their defense. I mean, they're top 10 in effective field goal percentage allowed, and they're 3rd in the nation in turnover percentage forced. So definitely one of the top defensive units there for Houston, but don't skip over on this Xavier defense. This is the toughest defense that Houston has played to date on the season. I mean, they're top 20 in effective field goal percentage allowed, so they're holding opponents, they're not giving them the good shots, and when they do, they're not hitting them. They're holding teams to just over 27% shooting from the 3-point line, which is top 30 in the country. And this Houston team, really hasn't been horribly tested. Xavier's been the more tested team, and this is actually the first true road game for Houston on the season. They've played a couple neutral site games, but talking about true road games, now you're going to the Cintas Center, which I think is underestimated a little bit as a home court kind of advantage situation that Xavier has down there in Cincinnati. So I do think that that's going to play a role. But, back to Xavier's pace real quick. You look at what they did against a slower team like St. Mary's. There was 115 total points in that game. So they really kind of played the pace of the opponent in that situation. And I do think that that's going to be a similar situation to what we see here. Xavier's offense has struggled a little bit, and they're already without Fremantle, who's still dealing with the injury from last year, who was one of their biggest contributors. And now he could be out for the entirety of this season. But I do think that the focus here is going to be on those defenses. Houston hasn't been a huge scoring threat. And playing against a team like Xavier, I do think that they're a little bit underestimated when it comes. Oh, sorry. I do think that they're a little bit underestimated on the defensive side of the ball when it comes, to playing, especially at home. And now you got him as a dog. I think that defense shows up here. Low total in this one, especially when you look at it from Xavier's side. But I'm looking for the under in this one tonight for my best bet.
Looking at the under, I'm expecting defenses to show up and show out here, and what is going to be a fun one for sure. They got to be stewing there, and Xavier Miller's got to be going out of his mind after kind of getting his lunch fed to him there. So now, what does he do? He's got to welcome in Houston here, Brian Leonard. Do you think one side has value over the other here right now?
Yeah, we're on the same game, just a little bit differently here. I apologize. It's the only game I really liked on today's card. You mentioned there was 20, but I couldn't find any advantages on any of the others. In fact, this is my free play on the site today. So if you want to get the information in written content, you can just go to my section on WagerTalk.com. By the way, nobody's mentioned it. Today is a special day at WagerTalk. You're getting 25% off. Fill your basket up as many plays as you want, whether it's monthlies, seasonals, whatever. Save 25% today off of any handicapper you like on today's card. Let's take a look at this Houston Xavier game. Cougars are a perfect 7-0 to start the season, ranking 3rd in the nation in our power ratings. They've blown out virtually everyone, with the closest game being a 10-point victory over Utah. That said, they're only 4-3 against the spread in the early going. Hard to believe, but this is their first road game of the season, and they don't play another road game, a true road game, until January 9th when they go to Iowa State. So Houston's got a chance to put themselves up there in the rankings early on and fight off the competition as the year goes on. But to play this long and not go on the road, and now we talked about that in the last game I broke down, that's a tough situation. And here they're going against the Xavier team, who's very good. The Cougars finished last year 33-4. Now they must step up their game in the Big 12 as they're switching conferences this year. And for the first time ever, the Cougars enter a season without 2 players who went in the first round of the NBA draft. We haven't seen those days since ever. And in fact, Houston's a team that we're used to seeing the powerhouse teams, the Dukes and the Kentuckys, and those kind of teams get 2 players drafted in the first round. We'll see how Houston deals with that as the season goes on. This is a team that wins with defense, and they say defense travels, but winning at home by double digits on a regular basis is not the same as doing it on a foreign court. Xavier enters play at 4-3 on the season. They're coming off of a home loss to Oakland. Last time out as a 15-point favorite. Now, I've bet on Oakland a lot over the last few years. They are a team that has the ability of pulling upsets. So that does not surprise me at all. And in fact, it's very possible that the Musketeers may have overlooked Oakland in anticipation for this matchup. Either way, Sean Miller will have gotten the attention of his players before this big game here. Xavier finished 2nd in the Big East last year with a 27-10 overall record. They made it all the way to the Sweet 16 a year ago. This is a very good team. We have them ranked 39th coming into this matchup. As was said earlier by our colleague going over this game again, this will be a battle of pace. Houston prefers the slow pace. Xavier wants to play fast. Most of the time, the home team is able to dictate the pace unless they're completely outmanned. I don't think Xavier's going to be outmanned here. So I expect this to be a closer game than expected. While Houston has better players, Xavier has that long history of success, coming off a 15-point loss. And Jeff talked about the pace. If Xavier can set the pace here, I think they win this game. If not, they can come close enough to keep this under the number.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one here tonight because you're right. The one who dictates pace is going to win, but we also know Miller in a bounce back spot has been pretty profitable over the years here. So good one there. And that leaves us, of course, with double R1L Steve Merrill. Now, Merrill, limited card here across the board tonight, but something tells me you've got a best bets and maybe a couple of things available on your page over at WagerTalk that we can fill our cart with. So what's going on here tonight?
Yeah, two strong best bets in college tonight. One college football, one college basketball. I've got a steamroller blowout in college hoops and also the Pac-12 championship winner best bet between Oregon and Washington. Probably the most important of all the conference championship games. Winner's going to be in, the loser's going to be out. It's not going to be that complicated with the playoff scenario. I'll let you know where the value is and how to make some money in that game, along with a college basketball steamroller, a 2-for-1 combo. It's basically buy one, get one tonight on Friday. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. Let's look at a free play game that was just a bit outside for making the cut. Little bonus college basketball play for Friday night. And it's a 7 o'clock Eastern matchup in the Big Ten between Maryland and Indiana. And I like the Indiana Hoosiers in this game. Currently -3 in most locations. I've seen a couple of the sharper books go to 3.5, though, and I respect that move. And I do think it's the right move. And I like Indiana here, regardless, to win this one by margin. In fact, both home teams in this matchup last year won by double digits, both Indiana and Maryland. But overall, the last 3 seasons, the Hoosiers are still 4-1 straight up and against the spread in the 5 head-to-head meetings against Maryland. And all of those have been low single-digit point spreads. So they've been a competitive matchup like tonight. And I think this season, Indiana, especially at this point, is the better overall team. Maryland can play pretty slow at times, and that is a concern because Indiana probably prefers a more up-tempo pace. But look at the three-point shooting. These are obviously two of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country this year. Maryland, after, what is it, 7 games now, hitting 23.5%. Indiana, after 6 games, hitting 24%. But Maryland's hitting only about 67.5% from the free throw line. Indiana about 70.5%. So I do think Indiana is a better shooting team. Hoosiers also shooting 51% overall from the field. Maryland just 42. So Indiana is a better shooting team. They do a much better job, obviously, scoring down low and in transition. I think on their home court, they can push the tempo a little bit more tonight. We'll take the better team at home at a very short price. Indiana Hoosier is worth a look tonight at 7 Eastern. Lay the minus the 3 to 3.5, depending on where you're looking here. But I like the Hoosiers to win this one by margin. And don't forget, I have a much stronger steamroller best bet tonight for college hoops and the Pac-12 championship, a 2-for-1 special. And pay attention, we're on over an 80% all sports run this week, and it continues tonight. Also, check out my college football top 25 video for all the conference championship previews. That's here on Wager Talk TV. And then, of course, best bets on my page, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com.
All right, there you go. Maryland, Indiana. We got Xavier and Houston, Purdue, Northwestern. We got a little something for everyone tonight on the college basketball landscape. But as we told you, now would be a good time to take advantage with all 3 of these guys who've got best bets, not just tonight, but all throughout the weekend. Go fill your card up here on this Friday. Get 25% off all of the selections that you choose there, whether it be with Brian Leonard, Steve Merrill, Jeff Michaels, anybody over at Wager Talk. Go fill that card up here on this Friday. Can't believe it. December the 1st already. Take advantage because all 3 have huge bets coming up in college football this weekend. The NFL, Brian Leonard, nobody is better now in the NHL than he is. Of course, Merrill just told you he's getting ready to roll here this weekend, as is Jeff Michaels. All best bets available. Go fill that card up now over at WagerTalk.com. All right, that'll do it for us here today. We got so much more, obviously, college basketball coming up. But do not forget our friends at the Gold Sheet as well, because they have been on quite a run coming up this week. In fact, coming out of they got a 6-0 run right now in their best bets here on the show. And they are going to be looking out west in one of the late games here tonight, involving the Cowboys of Wyoming taking on the Pilots of Portland. Shocker, over 149.5. And those of you that follow Portland know that's not a big shocker here. Even though the Cowboys may not be the fastest paced team, plenty of opportunities still and value on the over in this matchup here tonight. Great write-up, too, over at thegoldsheet.com. You guys can check that out. And here is your recap as Jeff, Bryan, and Steve, along with our friends from the Gold Sheet. As you can tell, you got winning plays right there here tonight. There's more where that came from across the board here at WagerTalk.com. On behalf of Jeff, Bryan, and Steve, welcome to December. Welcome to Wager Talk. Those of you for the first time, hit that subscribe and like button. And don't go anywhere, though, because if you hit that video on the screen right now, you'll get access to all the other big head-to-head matchups coming up this weekend here across all the sports. Until next time, best of luck with your plays. We'll see you again soon.